Every day I talk about diet with my patients, and I tell them if there is one dietary change that they can make for their health today, it would be to eliminate gluten from the diet completely. And you can imagine the backlash I get. I'm fine, gluten doesn't bother me. How do I do that? I was one of those people, so I totally get it. But hopefully by the end of this video, you're gonna understand why it is imperative to completely eliminate gluten from your diet if you have any chronic disease or if you wanna maintain good health. Okay, so what is gluten? Gluten is the protein found in the wheat plant. Researchers have determined that there is an increase in immune system reactivity to gluten because over the past 50 years, there has been an increase in celiac disease and gluten sensitivities. And so the researchers thought, okay, is this because of increased awareness? Is this because of more testing now that we have more people? And they've determined that it's actually something going on with the gluten molecule itself, which is the hybridization and deamidation. So hybridization is combining different strains of wheat together to create a new strain. And deamidation is using an acid or an enzymatic treatment to change the molecule itself. So you ever hear people going to Europe or specifically Italy, and they're like, oh, I ate all the pasta, all the bread, I didn't gain any weight, I had no problems. But when they're here, they can't really do that because they have symptoms. That's because in Europe, specifically Italy, they do not mess with the wheat plant like they do here. So these new wheat proteins are a major driver of chronic inflammation and autoimmunity. But why? What's happening? So you may have heard of celiac disease, and that is a gluten sensitivity marked by bloating, diarrhea, sometimes constipation, cramping. It's like weird GI symptoms. So how many people are walking around with those symptoms in general and they're not testing for celiac disease? You know, it's not something you always mention to your doctor. You just think, oh, maybe I had too much pizza or whatever. So you have those people, and then you have people that get tested by their doctor, and unfortunately the doctor only tests for one part of the gluten molecule, and they're missing so many other reactions that could be happening. And so they'll have that negative test, and that patient says, oh, I've been tested for celiac and I can continue to have gluten, but I'm still having these problems. Okay, and then you have people that actually don't get any abdominal symptoms from gluten at all. And so if you're eating gluten and you're not feeling anything in your stomach, you're thinking, I can tolerate gluten. But here's the thing, a reaction to gluten can actually show up in your skin, you know, eczema, psoriasis, acne, or neurological symptoms such as brain fog, fatigue, weird symptoms. So just because you're not having that GI effect from gluten doesn't mean that you're not reacting in other ways. And this is the mechanism behind those reactions. So your body will see this new Frankenstein molecule. I say Frankenstein because it's been tampered with, it's not natural. Your body's like, what is this? And it's gonna antibody tag it. Similar to what it would do if a virus or a bacteria came in. Your immune system says, hey, tag that, get it out of here. Immune system attack and get it out. Good job, immune system, that's great. And sometimes a little antibody response is okay. But if you continue to ingest this gluten and your body continuously attacks it, we can end up with what's called immunoconfusion. And that just means your immune system's on high alert. And this is where it gets good or bad. The gluten proteome has amino acid structural sequencing similar to various tissue proteins in your body, meaning your immune system mistakes your own tissues for the gluten molecule. Specifically the cerebellum, myelin as in MS, your islet cells of your pancreas, which can happen in type 1 diabetes. So your body's looking at these tissues and thinking, that kind of looks like gluten. You know, I've been attacking this gluten for a long time. This kind of looks like it. Let's hyper overreact. And that's how we can get some autoimmunity. Another way in which gluten can cause autoimmunity is by leaky gut. Intestinal inflammation can be caused by many other things other than gluten, but gluten is one big driver of intestinal inflammation. So imagine you cut your arm. It gets red, it gets swollen, irritated. That's inflammation. And if you leave that cut alone, it's going to heal. But if you don't, and you continuously cause injury to injury, then that cut will not heal. And that's kind of what's happening in the gut. You have your inflammatory food, there's inflammation, swelling, you know, it's a lot more complicated, but I'm making it basic. And if you continuously ingest inflammatory foods, now we're having a wound in the gut. And it's already a very thin lining. Your intestinal lumen is already pretty thin because think about it, you have to absorb nutrients, you know, there's different exchanges happening, and the bloodstream is right there. And so if you're causing inflammation, it's going to make that intestinal lining more permeable or more thin and leaky. So now we have larger proteins leaking into the bloodstream that aren't supposed to be there. And your body's going to react with the antibodies in the same way. And so that can cause like leaky blood-brain barrier. So now we have even more neurological manifestations. So I'm not going to get into the testing because that gets complicated, but if you want to know more about it, let me know. And I think testing is helpful because psychologically it shows you like, yeah, I am having a reaction and I need to eliminate this, you know. But if you're suspicious and if you have autoimmunity, you should definitely go gluten-free no matter what. Do it for 21 days and just see how you feel. You know, pay attention to your body, though. You have to be tuned in. Are you having more clarity in thinking? Are you having more strength, less acne? You know, things like that. And you don't have to believe me in everything I just said. Go to PubMed, go ahead and search gluten sensitivities and autoimmunity. You can even search ALS and gluten. Very interesting case study. So how do we go gluten-free? Gluten is present in a variety of grains. Think pasta, bread, flour, barley. I mean, all the good things, but it's even in soy sauce, ketchup, some salad dressings, food additives, emulsifiers. Sometimes you don't even know gluten is in there. So it can be challenging to go gluten-free, but if you're diligent and you prioritize your health, if you make the decision, you can do this. There are so many gluten-free alternatives nowadays because people are aware and people are noticing. And if you're tuned in with your body, you're going to also notice. So I encourage you to go gluten-free to get your health back if you already have a health issue, but if not, gluten-free to maintain this good health that you have today, because it's not a matter of if you're going to have a sensitivity, it's when.